Springboro Board of Education meeting, December 3rd, 2013. I need Mr. Porter to do a roll call, please.
Rules,
Yes.
Ghana,
Here.
Miller,
Here.
Poe,
Here.
Tony, absent.
Okay, would everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you, everybody. All right, first item on the agenda is to adopt the agenda, which is item 1.3. May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So
To
moved.
adopt the agenda? Okay, that's Mr. Regano. Need a second? Did you say that, Mrs. Cole? Second. Second, Mrs. Cole. Any discussion or revisions? Okay, hearing none, roll call, please.
Okay. Cool,
Yes.
Regano,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Poe,
Yes. Agenda item 1.4, approval of November 19, 2013 meeting minutes. I need a motion to approve. I will move to approve. I need a second.
Second.
That's Mr. Regano. Any discussion? Any changes? Yep, roll call, please.
Poe,
Yes.
Regano,
Yes.
Poe,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Okay, agenda item 2.1, Springboro Education Association. Is there anybody here? Any report?
Sarah Thornberry, Springboro Education Association, nothing to report.
Okay, thank you. 2.2, Springboro Classified Employees Association, representative? No? Okay. We have 2.3, public participation prearranged, and no one signed up to speak. We have 2.4, public participation. Anyone want to speak about an agenda item? All right. 2.5, recognition of Ohio Department of Education. And it looks like Yolanda Berger, okay, for AP Honor Roll.
Good evening. I am Yolanda Berger, and I am the Advanced Placement Coordinator from the Ohio Department of Education. Greetings to you from Columbus, capital city. We are excited to be here, and I will speak for Dr. Ross, Superintendent of Public Instruction, and myself, are happy to be here to award Springboro Community Schools with a certificate and a letter of recognizing you for receiving the Advanced Placement Honor Roll. And I'm going to read the letter that we have drafted for you. And it is an honor because there are many school districts in Ohio. Ohio is advancing their AP programs, and you are a part of that. And we want to thank you and congratulate you. So this is a letter from myself and Dr. Ross. Please accept our congratulations on Springboro Community Schools being named to the College Board's 4th Annual AP District Honor Roll. To receive this distinction, a district must have increased its students' access to AP courses while at the same time maintaining or increasing the percentage of students earning scores of 3 or higher on AP exams. We admire and appreciate schools that care about students every day and at every ability, and that nurture and challenge those students wherever they are. In this case, by identifying motivated, academically prepared students and providing high-quality AP instruction, your district is helping to make sure that promising young students are equipped to make the most of their college studies, careers, and lives. I have a certificate of recognition that I'd like to present to those AP teachers that are here, as well as Mrs. Daniel, principal, if you'd like to come up front, please. So on behalf of the Ohio Department of Education, Dr. Richard Ross, and myself, I'd like to congratulate you because you all are the champions. You all are the ones that are in the classroom and you are making that happen. And I know the dedication as a former AP English language teacher. I know the dedication. So I'd like to commend you and thank you for your commitment to making our students successful in our AP program. And Superintendent Petrie, I have a letter signed for you, just for you.
I don't get
Sir?
What I'd like to do is just kind of piggyback on Yolande. Thank you for being here this evening. I know you drove down from Columbus. I wanted to take an opportunity also to recognize these men and women for their effort and their dedication to our AP program. I have created a certificate for each of them expressing that appreciation. And then I wanted to share some real basic statistics with you. I'll let you sit down. So tonight with us is Trish Vogelmore, Chris Rao, Mary Luce, and Gail Dauber. I thank you all for being here this evening, and thank you for your efforts. We have some other people who are on our list as far as AP teachers. I just want to make sure that you know their names because they too put forth great effort. They just had a conflict with coming in this evening. Julie Crace, Bill Fox, Donna Griffith, Jack Hansen, Mike Holwiger, Laura Houston, Lori Corzan, Mary Kay Miller, Robert Ogan, Michelle Roberts, Jeff Runge, Lindsay Sav, and Deb Tuck. So I want to make sure I thank them as well. Jimmy has for you just a simple spreadsheet. You're supposed to pass this out, man. Yeah, I put people to work. You included. And what Jimmy's giving out to you, and I have extra copies for anybody in the audience who would like one as well. Last year's summary, spring of 2013, how many students took the test, and it's a breakdown also of their results in each category, if you will, each subject area. I think even more important than this are the kids who took the test, or the kids who put forth that effort, and the parents who support them. Particularly interesting, that I wanted to share with you this evening is not on your sheet, and that is that since 2010, we've had a steady increase in students who are taking AP courses and AP exams. In 2010, we had 161 exams administered. 2011, there were 199. 2012, there were 218. And 2013, there were 340 exams administered. And what you're looking at here are the 2013 results. So thanks to these men and women and our kids and our parents who all play a part in our children's education, we are increasing those numbers, and we are increasing the numbers of students who actually take the test, and as you can see, perform well. And just so you know, I do have a lot of trend data. If you want to see it, it's just a lot of paper, and I'm happy to forward those files to either have them available online or to you personally.
You might put this online.
What we have planned then is for in between now and the work session, there is a reception next door with cookies and drinks and just another way for our teachers to continue to be recognized this evening. I appreciate your time. I did notice that one more person walked in because he promised me he would try. Rory, come on down. No, you don't get time to take off your jacket. You just have to get down. Rory also teaches some of our AP classes, and the results of his classes are on here as well. But Rory, I just wanted to make sure that, like everyone else here, you were equally recognized for your hard work and dedication. So I created a certificate for you. Hopefully you'll, frame it in a real pretty frame and hang it on your wall. But thank you for your dedication and commitment to this program. That's all I have. Thank you for your time this evening. I know you're probably getting tired of looking at me at this point, but thank you.
Well, thank you, and congratulations, everybody. Thank you for all the work that you do. My kids talk about all of you all the time, and I really appreciate that. They speak very highly of their teachers. We move on. Anybody else want to say anything? 3.1, policy revisions, second reading. There's quite a few. I'm not sure if we need a discussion. We have most of that available for the last month in total. So, is there anything anybody wanted to say? Okay, I need a motion to approve 3.1, policy revisions, second reading.
So moved.
Mr. Regano, I need a second.
Second.
Yes, Mrs. Cole, any discussion? Roll call?
Regana,
Yes.
O,
Yes?
Poole,
Yes.
Miller,
Okay, 3.2, policy revisions, first reading. Mr. Regano, would you like to say anything about those?
Yeah, I will, again, these are continuing with the Neola revisions. This is the last batch. I'd encourage you to read through because in some cases, there's quite a bit of change, mainly trying to line up with a little bit more with the Neola template where these were out of date. But again, if it's been a long-standing Springboro policy, we do have deference to what other boards have adopted, things like that. So it's a combination of adopting what Neola has suggested and what we have had from the past. I can talk a little bit about a couple of these. 8390, animals on district property. We had a previous policy that dealt with service animals, mainly in the special ed area. However, this policy expands that and covers all different types of circumstances where animals might be on the property, such as drug dogs and anyway, it's an entirely new policy, so you might want to just take a look at that. It follows the Neola template. Policy 9270 used to be titled Home Education. Now it's titled the Equivalent Education Outside of the Schools. And it's basically lining this up with Neola. Most of this policy is struck out, signifying that we're replacing the old text with a new text. The major change in law here is that homeschoolers now are allowed to participate in extracurricular activities. So that's the primary change there. 8405 is a new policy for us on environmental health and safety issues. We thought that this was a good one to add because we didn't have a policy on ES&H issues. This would be things like how you handle hazardous chemicals, inspections for safety issues and such. We had no policy, even though I'm confident that we were doing those things and that we were doing them well. We just didn't have a policy. It seemed like a good idea to have a policy, mainly for, I guess, legal protection of the board. 9160, public attendance at school events. Again, this is driven by the change in the law that permits homeschoolers to attend or to participate in extracurricular activities. 9700 is a revision to our policy on relations with special interest groups. Again, it's an update aligning with Neola practices. We did spend some time going through this in committee, trying to match up old, new, and make sure that we were not eliminating things that have been district tradition, but this policy would get us pretty well in line with Neola. Policy oh one 0142.3 orientation. It deals, and this was just a cleanup item, it deals with what items board members should be provided prior to their first meeting. We had talked about, the policy talked about giving them manuals. Most of this stuff is on the district website, so we revised the language so that we were not required to hand over a big thick paper document, but rather just provide them the typical materials that you would get if you're a board member, for example, school district email address, access to the board, sign of board docs, and those kind of things. So this update, in essence, directs that new board members should have those materials prior to the first meeting.
And they get their car and everything. They get their car.
Cell phone,
Yeah.
All those bells and whistles.
yeah.
Policy 0153, appointees. We just generalize the language with respect to appointing members to organizations or events. We'll, at the organizational meeting, end up appointing people to a variety of duties, and so this just simply generalizes those appointments. Let's see. 016. 4.1, notification of board meetings. It required the treasurer to post on the bulletin board the yearly schedule. We changed that to have the treasurer post it to the district website instead. So that's the kind of cleanup, touch-ups that we have in here.
Are we good
Yeah, unless,
with that?
yeah.
Okay.
Does anybody have any questions for me?
So that they will come forward next meeting.
When we make revisions to these, like I noticed in work session, we have like the contract with Neola that we're gonna discuss. Do they, like, how does this chain of events happen with the markups? I mean, I know typically you work on these, but how does it work?
Well, with the Neola, Neola is well, I guess reading their contract, it's a licensing service. So they have templates that they think are generic, that most school districts would be interested. And then the templates have different checkboxes. So you can go through these templates and select different options based on, what you think suits your particular school district. Then you can also have district-specific changes, which, sometimes there's a situation that happens or has happened, and the district will make specific changes. For example, our athletic eligibility. In years past, the district decided that there should be a weekly eligibility to continue to participate in athletics. So there's language that is district-specific that got added in to the policy for that. So Neola doesn't deal with the district-specific things, but they'll twice a year come and present changes to their templates. And the representative, I guess, goes through those changes, compares it to our current policy, and informs us what those changes, what the changes will be. Plus the templates are marked up with your typical editing marks to show you where the changes are.
Okay.
So-
I just wasn't.
And we literally spent 3 policy meetings going through these markups, picking check boxes we thought were appropriate, trying to compare these with the current versions so we understand what's changing. In a lot of cases, our policy version is not necessarily aligned with Neola's. It's not aligned with the new template, but in a lot of cases, it's not aligned with the previous revision of the template. So we still want to know what changed from our policy to the Neola version.
Okay.
So we'll spend time going through those, trying to understand exactly what's changed. And then the policy committee, once we're happy with those, and typically the policy committee has been me, Dr. Coles, Mrs. Vinson, Mrs. Strittenberger, and Mr. Petrie when he's available. We'll go through those when we're happy with those. We'll have actually make the changes or make the markups that you see posted to board docs.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay, we will move on to agenda item 4.1, personnel items. Do you need to say anything about them? They're pretty easy today.
Very excited.
It's very short today, just a very short list. And are there any, well, let's just put it on the table, I guess. I need a motion to approve 4.1, the personnel items.
So moved.
That's Mr. Regano. I need a second.
Second.
Mrs. Cole, any discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Cool,
Yes.
Regano,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Cole,
Yes. All right, 5.1, board member, and we'll do 6.1 and 7.1 together. Board member comments, public announcements, and future considerations. Mrs. Cole?
I am just excited to see the AP results and thank you for coming out this evening and taking a moment to celebrate the success in our district.
So, okay, Mr. Miller?
I have nothing to say.
Okay, Mr. Regano?
Yeah, I think it's great when we can get recognized for improvements that we're making in education. And so I appreciate the presentation. Thank you.
Okay, and I will say the same thing. It's always good to recognize academics. I want to make sure that we try to do that as often as we can and let the kids know who the stars are and where they need to strive to get to. And, it works if we keep, I think, idolizing those who really work hard, strive, and do well, and make them the shining star that people need to work towards. It works. And my sophomore, who has just been that solid B student, is all of a sudden really ratcheting it up, and I think he has seen enough role models, at least in this building, that really, other students that is, that really try hard. And he's modeling after that, and I so appreciate it. He all of a sudden decided to double the chemistry, or double the science, and then double the math. This is not somebody, he was an A student in lunch, but now, he's really working hard, and it's great to see that light come on, and I'm almost half jealous that you guys get to see that light come on, and I get it when it comes home, but I'm really thrilled that it happens, and it happens, I'm sure, in every building. But I'm grateful for the inspiring teachers that we have that help that light come on, and the boatloads of students who strive for excellence in this district. It's beautiful. So, thank you, everybody.
lunch isn't easy anymore when you have 800 calories to achieve and all you have calories to choose from.
And hollow legs, how are you gonna fill those with 800 calories? So, lunch costs us quite a bit because he goes for the a la carte. But anyway, we're going to take a, 5-10 minute recess and reconvene, or actually during recess, we'll go ahead and convene in the library for our snack time. Is that what it is? Is there a calorie limit? Is there a calorie limit to that? Are we okay with federal money on snacking? Okay, good. Okay, everybody, join us in the library for a short reception, and then we'll start the work session in the library. Thank you. Hello. The first thing we have, I know, as I'm trying to get back on here, is committee reports. And it looks like there's only probably one. That's Mr. Regano.
Well, the policy committee has not met since the last board meeting. So we don't have anything to talk about. I don't know if you want to talk about the policy 5200, Mr. Petrie, or not. There's a potential revision coming on 5200, but
About,
attendance.
yes, yeah, it should be. That will be, in essence, in the past, if a child has been suspended, they receive zeros. And we'd like to look at the first offense in essence, and I think it goes up until high school. High school, I think, still will, no, I think that's different as well. We'll have to look specifically at that. It's been so long, but they would get at least 50% of their grade. And in essence, what that is, some people will see that as perhaps for being weak. I see that as we believe our kids enough that we all make mistakes. And the best time to make a mistake is when you're under your parents' roof and you're here in school. And when you give a child a zero, and last year when we were going through this, it's you can't hardly overcome it, especially the older that the kids are, because the teachers give fewer grades. So to give them a 50% allows them to stay in the game. And in a place like Springboro, where we may have 93% of our kids pass the test, what people don't realize, it's so easy to become complacent and say, well, hey, that's great, we have 93% pass. Well, you know what? Our goal should be 100. And those other 7%, if when they make a poor decision because perhaps they don't have the parental guidance other kids do at home, they're left alone and they're trying to go through some of these experiences on their own, they don't make the best decisions. Well, the bottom line is when we get penalized them by giving them a zero, they have no incentive to come to school and turn it around.
Right.
So they just give up. But when you're hiding behind these test scores that pass so high, it's easy to say, well, 93%, well, I'm concerned about the 100%. So we did have a committee last year, Mr. Blakely, Mr. Martin, those two worked closely with me on that. We were able to change some of those things around. So yeah, that will be coming for discussion.
We had changed it a year or so ago for the lower levels, and now, are you saying that you'd really like to
All the way
adjust
through.
adjust the high school to be similar? Yeah, I'm totally with you.
It's like exam week at the high school. If a child gets suspended and they fail those exams,
Right.
you can't overcome that. So depending on what it is, we have to take a look at it.
Did you do that?
I have a lot of friction in my body.
Did you do that?
Your thing is too close.
Okay. Is that all? Mr. Regano?
Yes.
Who is doing that? Somebody's got a mic somewhere else. Doing some funny things. Okay, so we're done there. 8.2, Neola Administrative Guidelines, Mr. Petrie.
Yes, one of the things, and I know I've spoken with Mr. Regano about this, in a district this size, and I know Mr. Pennell could probably attest to this, we should have guidelines for all of our policies. Neola, when I met with them, they were shocked that we didn't have them. In essence, you have your policies, which are more of your overarching umbrella, broad. All right, well, I'll move my arm again. But nonetheless, what the guidelines are, for example, let's use 9210, policy we've worked a ton on, or 7510. The guidelines would come into place to be very specific. And what I envision is these guidelines, we will get a Neola template, just like we do for the policies. However, on some of these, we may totally rewrite what the guidelines are. You do have two examples on board docs and guidelines that Ms. McGuire has placed on there. And those are just to give you an idea of, you can check boxes, do it the way we do our policies, but we can also customize these. Or 9210 to really look at some of the 5013C language to make sure we have that outlined in there. If we're going to go that route in terms of what needs to be done. And then for organizations that are not 5013Cs, we would have to have that specific language as well. And we actually have both of those guidelines in place now that we've been working with those support organizations. All the guidelines are going to do is support each one of the policies with really the how to carry out the policy. So it's the part that we need. The contract you'll see, and I apologize, I haven't read it. I've been in teacher evaluation training all day today. But the contract you'll see, it's $8,800. In January, it goes up, I think, $600. So we're trying to get in. We get 24 hours of service from Neola, and what that means is we will have 6 meetings, 4 hours long, to where they actually come, and we should be able to clear out the guidelines for all of our policies in that amount of time. This is one of those things that's truly purely operational. The Board of Education sets policy, and then it's the superintendent's job to carry it out. The guidelines, in essence, are the superintendent's portion of that, to set the how to carry out the policies in place. It's not something that necessarily will bring for approval, but we will probably blend a lot of them in with the committee so that we can have discussion and get feedback on it, and then hopefully get them finalized by February. So that's the goal. We'll see how that works.
Oh, any discussion, any questions?
A couple comments. We have talked off and on in policy committee about these administrative guidelines. We have numerous policies that refer to the superintendent shall make administrative guidelines to administer this policy. And I guess my feeling is that the administrative guidelines are entirely the superintendent's prerogative. And to the extent that he feels he needs them, that's his call. If he thinks that a policy is sufficient on its own and does not need an administrative guideline, I think he also has the prerogative to not issue one then. The one caution that I have is that we have a lot of policies that have been customized. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think in a lot of cases, it's just Springboro's version of the policy. And so if you pick up Neola's template for administrative guidelines, well, it's going to line up with their template and not have the district customizations. So I think that a lot of attention needs to be paid to these to make sure that those customizations are considered in the administrative guidelines. And there's a lot of those. I'm not sure that, I guess I'll just throw out an idea for you to consider. Instead of trying to do these in bulk, I think maybe be selective, a little bit surgical on policies that you think that you really do need to have those guidelines in place, work those, and then progressively get into the other ones. Because I do have, my biggest concern with this is that we'll have a policy that says one thing, and we may end up with an administrative guideline that is in conflict. And then that wouldn't be a good situation to be there, because the policies have to be the superseding document. So.
Norm and I actually discussed it, and he did mention that as well, that we have some policies that are a little more customized. And that, in essence, we're going to have to go through each policy and compare it to the guidelines. You do them in tandem with each other. In other words, you look at the policy, because that's the board adopted document, and then we set the guidelines based off what the board adopted. So that is one of the ways I asked specifically that it be done that way as well. So we'll start with the policy, and then they will match up their guidelines to it. And if they don't qualify, then what we have to do is, in essence, shelf those and go and create our own guidelines and then bring that back. So it's a process that we're going to go through. We'll go through and find the policies that are similar to their guidelines, get all those done, and then the others will be the ones we have to spend time on to make sure they're specific to our current policies.
And again, I think it's your call on which ones you need, which ones you don't need. I wouldn't feel obliged to adopt every single administrative guideline that Neil has. It's going to be a big, it's another maintenance challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And it took us considerable time to go through this last Neola update with just respect to policies. The administrative guidelines, I suspect, are more voluminous than the policies are. And so it ends up being a challenge to keep those up to date as well. So.
Well, you're right, it will create a whole nother committee, because the policy committee will make decisions. And then we'll have to be following right behind the policy to make sure our guidelines are in conjunction with those, which is fine. I mean, we've been hung up on a few, from how to use a credit card to other things. We need guidelines, it's that simple, especially with a lot of those.
And I'd just say some are probably more important than others.
Yeah, I mean, he mentioned us, he would be willing to bet for a district with a $54 million budget, we probably stand alone in not having guidelines. So it's something that
Yeah.
Mount Healthy probably,
And-
did they have one? Yeah, the other districts I've worked for have.
And while we don't have the formal Neola branded administrative guidelines, we do have guidelines. I mean, there are procedures and usually driven by forms, you know, fill out this form and it has kind of a process. And those have kind of filled in that gap between what the policy says and how we go about doing and implementing that. So it's not like there's nothing out there.
Well, no, all you have to have is policies. Problem is when something happens, then it's left up to whomever to decipher that policy and carry it out the way they want to carry it out. But it's not, we're not illegal by not having guidelines. You don't have to have it. But it sure is helpful when we do in a district this size.
So it's $8,800 for them to come in and help you
And that's part of the
develop.
package, right, and that's giving us all the guidelines, and then we will have the same option, I think each year it's $500 updated.
So it's a
And
template that they're giving you?
just like we have with the policy.
Yeah.
So is it a one-time 8,800 and then?
One time $8,800 and then $500.
Okay.
Now in January, that goes up. So,
And they note pretty specifically, because we've used them as a service for years,
Correct.
where it would refer to superintendent guidelines, right? Or
Well,
just
a lot of it's going to be going through
administrative
the
guidelines.
policies as well. I mean, you know what I'm saying about that, Mr. Regano, we'll have to go through and really look at each of the policies as well.
So, but you have to do that. NOLA's not going to look through the policy manual, you're going to have to.
Well, actually, board members who go off are supposed to.
Yeah,
come back.
right. No. Uh-uh. Nope,
I
nope.
just thought I was going to cover that.
No, I've got other jobs.
All right, but anyhow, we will be
Not
bringing
policy.
that contract for a vote at the December 17th board meeting. And the reason we're rushing it is to beat I want to save the $600 to $800, and I want to get on his schedule so that he's here all 6 times that we meet to lend a helping hand on that.
So it's like 6 times 4 hours. each.
Correct, which is quite a bit.
I, just for the board's information, and if I'm boring you because you already went through the contract, just say so. I did go through it. I don't really have any issues with the contract. Just
I didn't see any either.
just outlining what it does. I mean, it's a license agreement, so Neola owns all of the language in the templates, including the check boxes and all that stuff. So we don't have the right to those policies. The district-specific modifications, we do own. They provide legal support for their language, which it stops short of them being here and being our attorney. It just said legal support. So I think if we were to get sued because of one of these policies, somebody objected to the policy for whatever reason and wanted to challenge the policy, Neola would show up and consult, but they would not defend us. And I guess the same is true with the administrative guidelines. So, that I think is the nuts and bolts of what the contract says, is that they own their language, we own ours. They're not responsible for ours, and we're not responsible, well, we're responsible for theirs too, but they'll show up and be a consultant.
They're watching the entire thing. They can literally walk out of that and go, hey, wasn't us.
Yeah.
That's the only danger I saw.
So, that's, I'm probably missing something, but that was kind of the gist of the contract.
Okay, I think we can move on to 8.3, public participation on a work session agenda item. Is there any public participation on a work session agenda item? Having none. 8.4, discussion of other business as required. Anybody else with other business? Okay. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on into executive session. We'll take a 5-minute recess and do that. I need a motion to move into executive session, but let me read the reasons. Executive session for RC 121.22G14 to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official, or preparing for conducting, reviewing negotiations or bargaining sessions with the public employees concerning their compensation or other terms and conditions of their employment. I need a motion to approve going into executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, and that's Regano and Cole. and we will take a 5-minute recess. There will be no action taken after executive session.
I heard these exist.
Pagano,
Yes.
Cool,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Coles.
Yes. Okay. About 5 minutes.